Okay, so here we are alive once again with another Mcfarlane Collector Edition DC Multiverse unboxing. And this is Deathstroke the Terminator. You can see that he's number 46 in this series. Got a lovely piece of artwork by Mike Zeck on the back. Mike Zeck is one of my favorite comic book artists. For those of you who don't know, he is my favorite Captain America artist, and Captain America is my favorite Marvel character. So obviously, I'm a big fan of his. He did a lot of great covers over the years. He did a lot of great interiors too, but I think he probably like is more famous for his covers even at this point than his interiors. But I mostly associate him with Marvel, probably because of the Captain America connection, and he happened to draw one of my favorite Spider-Man comic book stories of all time, which was Craven's Last Hunt. Not to mention he drew Marvel Comics Secret Wars, Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, excuse me, which was a seminal event in my becoming a fan of comic books as a Ute. The thing that really got me into collecting comics seriously, and I loved these characters mainly from cartoons and television up to this point. I loved Super Friends. I loved the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, the Adam West Batman television series, the Linda Carter Wonder Woman television series. Of course, Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno on the Incredible Hulk. That was my superhero world, and I bought comics, here and there, as any kid at the time would. I liked Superman, Batman, characters like that. I'd buy comics of Star Wars and Star Trek and other things that were that were interests of mine. And when Spider-Man switched to the black costume, the symbiote costume, the one that we now know as Venom. That was something that just really fascinated me, and I just had to know more. Why is Spider-Man wearing this black outfit? What? It's from another planet? He went to this thing called the Secret Wars. Like, what's the Secret Wars? Then I got to read that series, and then I see there's some stuff going on with Iron Man, so it makes me interested in reading Iron Man. There's some stuff going on with the Avengers. It gets me interested in the Avengers, so I start reading Avengers, West Coast Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men. The whole thing spiraled. I became a hardcore comic book fan because of Mike Zeck is a big part of the reason why, isn't he? So anyway, Bobby Wald is here and he says, I like that Teen Titans Go, I think, was the movie where they just kept calling Deathstroke Deadpool, which is ironic because we all know who the real ripoff is in that situation, don't we? Yeah, I even remember there was I think it was an annual for the Superman Batman series where they did kind of an updated version of the first story where Superman and Batman learn each other's identities on the cruise ship where Bruce and Clark are forced to share the same cabin and they find out each other's identities. Well, they had the Earth 3 version of Deathstroke, who went unnamed. They never said what that character's name was, but it's pretty obvious they were doing a riff on Deadpool. I mean, it was written by Jeff Loeb, who had written Deadpool, and I think that one was even illustrated by Ed McGuinness, who had illustrated Deadpool. They knew what they were doing. Slade Wilson, Wade Wilson, really? Oh, that's clever. Let me introduce you to some of my original characters. There's Batpool, who's really Bryce Wayne, and there's Superpool, who's really Clark Trent. So yeah, there we go. And don't get me wrong, I love Deadpool as a character. He became more than just a Deathstroke knockoff over the years. And I think he's a pretty unique character on his own by this point. But we all know where the real inspiration for that character came from. I mean, we're being real about it. So anyway, let's go ahead and open them up. I've jabbered on enough about my love and admiration and respect for Michael Zeck. That was almost a rhyme, but not quite. So I wasn't sure what figure I was going to open. I wasn't sure if I was even going to do a video today because I don't usually do videos on Sunday, but I don't know if I'm going to get to do one on Monday. and because I'm probably going to go visit my mother on Monday, and I've got to work a lot. Not a lot of hours, but a lot of days, which kind of sucks. Like I'd much rather like I'm the kind of guy who'd rather work like 4 12-hour shifts than 5 8-hour shifts. So and I've got all these 6-hour shifts. It's annoying. But I need the money, so I'm not gonna say no. So here's the trading card. Got the same piece of artwork that we had on the back of the package, and then we got the figure stand, and it is one of the newer figure stands with the classic 1970s DC logo on it, and it's in silver because it is a collector's edition. And you know what collector edition means? It means it's overpriced. But we'll get more into that when I talk about the figure. Here's what the back of the trading card looks like, and it reads Deathstroke, Deathstroke the Terminator, data file, real name Slade Wilson. Deathstroke is the most feared and respected mercenary in the world. His elite military training and a genetically enhanced physique make him a very dangerous combatant. But his deadliest weapon is his mind. A master strategist and tactician, Deathstroke specializes in psychological warfare tactics that he uses to devastating effect. We were just talking about how Deathstroke was a knockoff, or Deadpool was a knockoff of Deathstroke, but not a lot of people talk about how Deathstroke himself owes a debt to Captain America. And I already mentioned how much I love Captain America and how he's one of my favorite characters. And you can see that George Perez, when he designed Deathstroke's costume, took a lot of influence from Captain America. The flared gloves, the Buccaneer boots. He's even got chainmail on the outfit, but Perez did something very clever where he reversed the chainmail. He's got spandex on the upper half of the torso, and then chainmail on the lower half, the abdominal region of the torso, on the lower arms rather than the shoulders, and then he's got chainmail tights. So yeah, Deathstroke is almost kind of like an evil version of Captain America in a lot of ways. Also, very similar in terms of design and color scheme to Perez's own design for Taskmaster over at Marvel Comics. So, you could almost look at those as being kind of parallel characters to each other. Maybe that was the intention. I don't know. So Deathstroke comes with a ton of firearms, and that's nice because for the longest time, Mcfarlane hadn't been allowed to use guns on their DC characters. But I guess DC finally seen their heads prevailed as far as that went. You know what? It's probably kind of stupid that we made you put out a Sergeant Rock figure with no guns. I like to think that that's the thing that that was the final straw there. Somebody at DC was like, wait a minute, why doesn't Sergeant Rock have his guns? Well, you wouldn't let us use his guns. Oh, I guess you guys can use guns now. So Bobby Wald is here and says he's even carrying a shield in the shape of a gun. What a ripoff. And then Lone Dragon is here and says, hey, any more jabronis to show today? No, unfortunately, no more jabronis for a while. I'm guessing the next member of the Jabroni League of America, aka the Super Enemies, will probably be in the next assortment of Super Friends figures. I'm sure that at that point they will have an evil version of Aquaman, since they're doing Aquaman in that wave. So, and they're also doing Bizarro Batman in that wave, which I'm not really too wild about that, honestly. But that means if they do that, and I'm hoping they'll have the Universe of Evil Aquaman, that means they'd have two kind of twisted versions of heroes that already exist. But oddly enough, we were just talking about the Crime Syndicate right before you showed up, because we were talking about the Earth 3 version of Deathstroke here. So there's that. Well, so we're going to talk more about these firearms in a minute. So in this arsenal of firearms, this is pretty great. I love the fact that he's got so many guns. This is awesome. So I'm going to be gentle about this when I say it. I am mildly disappointed that he does not have a sword. So that does seem to me like a glaring omission. But that having been said, the last Deathstroke figure that they put out, which was this one, which I had, and I like this one, but like I said at the time, I would have preferred to have had the classic costume, so I'm glad to have the classic costume now. This guy did not come with any guns. because they weren't allowed to use guns at that time. And he came with 2 swords. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them trade. I'm going to have this death. I'm going to give this Deathstroke one of these 2 swords, and give this Deathstroke one of these many guns. So let's go ahead and get him out of the package. He does have rubber tabs around him, and since I still have my snips over here, I'll use those instead of the usual X-Acto knife. It is a little bit easier. And he seems to have, the standard amount where he's got rubber tab around each of his ankle, rubber tab around each of his wrists, and then the double rubber tab around his torso. Did I get both of those when I snipped that? I can't tell. I think I might have just got one. Couldn't hurt to snip it again. It looks like I did not get it. And I gotta say that I think that they matched. The look of Zek's version of Deathstroke. He's got that right amount of bulk. They did not paint in the flesh around his eyeball. You can see that Zek did not give him a white eyepiece like he often has. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. I don't think Perez gave him a white eyepiece either. There is a platinum version of this, and they just painted in the whole inside of his eye white, including the flesh around his eye. Looks very strange. I don't know why they did that. But the platinum version is based on Slade as he appeared in the Teen Titans animated series. So he's in a black, gray, and orange outfit rather than a blue, light blue, and orange outfit. And I do think that the blue on the legs and the abs and the lower arms is a little bright. They used a slightly darker blue on the Superpowers figure, but the colors had their own issues on that too, and we talked about that at the time. But I probably would have gone a shade darker on the blue here. Let's see. Yeah, I got this Superman over here, so I can like that shade of blue. I'm not going to show the front. Like, I'm not going to compare with the front. It's got that weird digital shading, but you can see the kind of like that shade of blue. I think would have been good for the lighter blue areas, and then even maybe make the darker blue a little darker. They've got this half of his mask in blue, and I'm used to thinking of that as being black. If we look at Zek's illustration, like the way he does it is, you could almost imagine this stuff as being black with just blue highlights. So I don't know if I would say it's incorrect necessarily to say that it's blue or to say that it's black. It's it is what it is, I guess. It looks nice. I think it's a good color scheme. But if I was doing it, I would have done it slightly differently and had like a darker shade of blue. That's all I'm saying about that. It's not really a complaint. I'm just picking nits. That's all I'm doing. All right, so let's look at his accessories. And first of all, I want to talk about the hands on this figure before I do that, because we're going to talk about the hands that came with the figure in a little bit. He's got a solid fist on his that comes on the figure, and then this kind of open hand here. And I like the open hand because that's going to allow him to hold these rifles a little bit easier, I think. But I don't much like the solid fist. I don't really care for solid fists on most characters. I like solid fists on, like, say, Superman or Captain Marvel, who are characters that wouldn't really need accessories anyway. But Deathstroke, I'm going to want to hold accessories. Now, that having been said, he can't really hold more than one accessory if he's got this in his hand. But if you're going to have like the rifles in his hand, and you want to have him properly grip those rifles, this is a great hand to have. So you see this one, this big old rifle, that's got like a grenade launcher on the front of it, and that looks really cool holding it like that. So yeah, that's then the left hand. There's another gripping left hand. So you can put this on him and have him dual wielding the rifles if you want to do that. Actually, I kind of messed up here because I should really make sure I get that figure in the trigger guard. But maybe he was practicing proper trigger discipline at the time. Maybe he just wasn't ready to shoot yet. Now he's ready to shoot. So yeah, that's it for the hands. Now let's talk about all these weapons. And the first one I really want to talk about is the sidearm, which is really cool. And I've said before, I'm not a gun guy. I'm not an expert on guns. And full disclosure, I'm going to get some stuff wrong when I talk about guns. And if any of you out there are experts in guns and you notice that I'm saying something wrong, please let me know in the comments, because I always like to be educated about such things, and I like to know what these weapons are that the characters are armed with. All I can do is guess, and I'm just kind of like barely above a layman as far as that goes. Like, my dad's a big gun guy; he knows a lot about guns, but I did not inherit his knowledge, unfortunately. But the sidearm to me looks like a Desert Eagle, and it's got that kind of distinctive trigger guard like a Desert Eagle has, and it's just a massive automatic pistol. You can see it's got a big old scope on it. It's got a red area on there, which leads me to believe it's some kind of night vision or infrared or maybe even a laser scope of some kind. It looks cool. It brings out some it's a little bit of attention to detail in here. Let's see what that looks like in his hand. It's got a really thick grip to it, so I got to kind of stretch out the fingers a little bit to get it in there. But there he is with that. Looks very cool, you know. And it does have a working holster. Thanks, Mcfarlane, for finally giving a figure a working holster. Between the two Captain Cold figures that I've opened recently that just have these solid bricks attached to their hips, it's nice to actually have a working holster I can actually put a weapon into. Now, that having been said, it doesn't seem to fit in there very snugly. It seems to be a little bit loose, but I don't think it would fall out if like a kid was playing with it. But you know, if you put them away for storage in your big plastic bin full of figures while you're moving or whatever, it's probably going to fall out of that holster. Just fair warning. So put them in a baggie or something before you do that. All right, let's move on to the next of these weapons, and that leaves us with 3 rifles. There's a big rifle, a really big rifle, and a really, really big rifle. So let's talk about those. So here we go, and this one looks kind of like, to me, like a modified version, like kind of we changed enough so we don't get sued version of a standard U.S. military rifle. I always call a rifle that looks like this an M16. I don't think they're called M16s anymore. And then, of course, the civilian AR-15 looks very similar to this. But you can see they did make some slight changes to the design, like this sight is a little swept back for one thing. But yeah, it definitely is supposed to bring to mind like an M16 type rifle. So M16s are what they used in Vietnam, and it's what I'm used to them being called, because they were still called that in the 80s. I don't know what they're called now. They might still be called M16s. I don't know. But anyway, so here Deathstroke is with that particular rifle, and that's what that looks like. And it looks really cool with him. And him being a Vietnam era soldier, he is a Vietnam veteran. I think he would be very, very comfortable with a gun like this. But that's not all the guns that he comes with. And I'm sure some of you are like he needs a little more firepower than that. So why don't we go up to a slightly bigger model? And that is a nasty looking rifle. This one looks a lot like a rifle that came with some Snake Eyes figures in the early 2000s. I remember the Rise of Cobra Snake Eyes, that was Paris Pursuit Snake Eyes, the one with the trench coat. He had a rifle that looked a lot like this. So let's go ahead and put that into his hand, and that's going to look pretty badass. Oh, yeah. So there we go. And of course, he can grip that, like I said, with this kind of open hand. This is the best thing about this hand, is that you can get these rifles in these two-handed grips, and that looks really cool. You can see that it's got a foregrip, like a folding foregrip there, but it's not actually. It doesn't fold in real life. It's just sculpted on there, unfortunately. But that would have given you another place to have him grip the rifle if that was the case. It doesn't seem like any of these have removable magazines, and I'm glad of that, because I don't like removable magazines. I always wind up with the G.I. Joe figures. I always wind up gluing them in, because otherwise they get lost. I hate that. So, but as cool as this rifle is, maybe you're like, well, that rifle's not big enough for my boy Deathstroke. He needs a really big rifle. Well, feast your eyes on this. Now, I did put this one in his hand earlier, but now we're going to take a really good look at it, and it's just massive. I mean, look at that. It's got one of those things where like the grip of the rifle is actually like melded in with the stock. It's got the grenade launcher on there. Got a huge magazine. Let's go ahead and put that on there. Look at the front of that barrel too. That is nasty looking. Oh man. So this. Oh, I dropped him. This is probably going to be the rifle that I'm mostly going to display with this guy. I think that this one is a good one for our boy Slade to have. And make no mistake, in my mind, Slade is a villainous character. They did try to make him into an anti-hero in the 90s, in the era of the Punisher, and of course that is the era of the comics that this figure is representing. But to me, he's always a bad guy. Like I can't help but think of him from the Judas Contract. And for those of you who read that comic, he carried on with Tara, who is an underage girl, in a way that I do not feel comfortable with, and I certainly don't want to discuss it here on YouTube. But if you know, you know, and it was nasty. Like he's not a good guy. He's a sleaze. So I don't know if that whole thing was like as frowned upon back in the 90s. I think that was still when it was considered something kind of titillating, and some people would still even blame the girl in a situation like that. And make no mistake, Tara was no angel. She was a bad girl, and I don't even doubt that she instigated it. Like I'm not even saying that. But what I am saying is that even if she was a bad girl and did instigate it, she's still underage and did not have consent. And Slade is still a grown man who had grown enough to have children older than her. Slade ought to have known better. I'm gonna say that. I will say that definitely. So yeah, I'm putting that on him. He could have said no. He could have rebuffed her. He could have pushed her off, but he didn't, and that's sleazy. I'm just saying. So that should not be a controversial opinion. Anyway, so here he is with the gigantic rifle, and man, I just think that one is so cool. This is definitely going to be the one that he's going to stick with. Now, looking at the image on the figure, I don't think any of these is 100% the one that it comes with. I think the one that's actually closest is probably the medium-sized weapon. I think that's probably closest to what he has on the back of the package. But this is the one that I definitely think is the coolest looking one, and that's the one that he's going to be wearing in the thumbnail because I think it's the coolest looking one. And that's it's my figure, so I can do that. Lone Dragon says Pete Wisdom and Kitty Pryde was worse. Damn it, I hate that Pete Wisdom. Yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna say it right now. What was the name of it? I'm drawing a blank on his name. Warren Ellis. Yeah, he was writing Excalibur at the time. That was totally the Warren Ellis self-insert character. That was he wanted to be the one to deflower Kitty Pryde. That's what that was. And he was bragging about that too. Do you remember reading any interviews with him about that? And he's like, "Oh yeah, Kitty Pryde's finally going to lose her virginity to this really cool character I created called Pete Wisdom. He's awesome." We all know that if anybody was gonna punch Kitty's V card, it should have been our boy Peter Rasputin. I don't think that's even up for debate. So yeah, screw Pete Wisdom. Not the way Kitty Pryde did, but just like an up yours kind of that sort of thing. If my mom's watching this, I just gave a thumbs up. I didn't really give a thumbs up. All right, so let's talk about the articulation on this figure. And I will say that also I want to point out that he does have the ties in the back. They are orange ties on this figure. It doesn't seem too consistent as to what color the ties are on the back of his mask. But if we look at the Zach artwork here, we can see that they are orange ties on that. So it is consistent with that. Of course, the previous figure had blue ties. He also has a blue eyeless half on his mask. So I guess that's just something McFarlane likes to do. The Superpowers figure did it in black, though. But like I said, the Superpowers figure, the colors are still kind of messed up on that one. But anyway, articulation. So Deathstroke can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He can tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders. He's got the cool McFarlane butterfly joint, so we got a lot of movement there. That's cool. The arms raise up to the sides about that far. Now, there are a lot of new parts on this figure. The head, obviously, the upper part of the torso, obviously, the belt, the trunks, I believe, are new. The boots, the lower legs, at least the boot part of it, those are new, and the glove portions of the lower arms, if not the entire lower arm, forearm, that seems to be new. But he does share a number of parts with a surprising source, and that is Green Lantern. So this is not the first use of this Green Lantern body. I believe that was Kyle Rayner, but he's a good one to show off some of these parts. So you see, like, Green Lantern had this kind of texture to his legs, and they use that on Deathstroke to give him a little bit of texture to his legs, which is an interesting way to solve that whole chainmail situation. So it's not proper chainmail, but it's still something that gives it some texture, and I'm glad that they did address it within the figure, even though it's, like I said, it's not a pure perfect chainmail, but it is a little bit of a cost-cutting measure that I do approve of. I still think it captures the flavor of the thing, and I think that probably the abs are the same. I can't really tell because I can't really see them that well. I was thinking they might be the same, but I don't think they actually are. I think they actually gave Deathstroke some new abs. It seems like that the abs on Deathstroke have just like a little bit more definition. I mean, you can definitely tell that John Stewart is doing his stomach crunches, but Deathstroke's got just like a little bit more definition, and especially the lats are more cut on Deathstroke, where they're not quite as well defined on John Stewart. But hey, this guy's an architect, and yeah, he's a former Marine, but he's been retired from the Marine Corps for a while, and this guy is still a hardcore mercenary. So, like, yeah, he's probably getting a little more exercise done, and plus, let's be honest, you don't got to rely on a power ring like this guy. This guy's got a power ring that does most of the work for him, and that's not to say that John Stewart is not still a badass even without the power ring. Like we all saw on Justice League, the Once and Future thing, remember where John lost his power ring powered down. He ran out of power to the power ring, so he just slaps on some fatigues and picks up a rifle, and he joins Sergeant Fury and the Easy Company, and that was pretty badass. I think that was the most badass John Stewart ever was. But yeah, so they do reuse the legs from Green Lantern, but I don't think there's any other reused parts. I think that everything else is original. So let's go ahead and get back to the articulation. So he does have a bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you get at elbows. And he's got, of course, the cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation. I was already playing with this a little bit earlier, so you saw that. So it rotates all the way around where the wrist meets the forearm and where the wrist meets the hand. And it's got a hinge on it, and you can pretty much move that wrist around any which way you want to. Very cool. He's got the cool Mcfarlane torso articulation. Can move back and forth like that. Can bend backwards about that far, bend forwards about that far. Really, you can get him in any kind of pose you want to, any kind of dramatic pose. He rotates all the way around where the rib cage meets the abs, and all the way around where the abs meet the belt. But of course, since the belt is kind of thick, it does hinder the movement somewhat, but you can still get it to rotate all the way around. The thighs, they got a little bit of wiggle here, not a whole lot. It doesn't rotate all the way around, but you can still get a little bit extra posability out of it. Does not kick forward as far as you might think, not quite 90 degrees. Left leg does a little better, but only a little. So yeah, there we go. And then double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. No boot cut, even though the orange boot is a separate piece of plastic from the blue shin. So they could have put it in there if they wanted to, but they didn't. But that's okay because he's got the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation, which rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin and where the ankle meets the foot. And then you can point the foot down about that far, point the foot up about that far, and you've got toe articulation just to show off. But yeah, the great Mcfarlane ankle and wrist articulation again win the day. It is, in my opinion, and in my opinion, this is uncontested, the best wrist and ankle articulation that exists on action figures today. So something I will miss when Mattel takes over doing these figures, because yeah, Mattel does some great articulation on their own. That's true, and you've seen me brag about the articulation on Masterverse figures, and you will see me brag about it more when my next shipment comes in from Big Bad Toy Store, and I've got Cobra Khan and Tila from the Masterverse line to show to you. There's a little bit of foreshadowing there. But yeah, Mcfarlane, they've always got the edge on articulation. I think Mcfarlane has the best articulation of any action figures on the market right now, in my opinion. So I think that's pretty much it for Deathstroke. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next because, like I said, I don't think I'm going to do an episode on Monday, but I'll try to do an episode sometime on Tuesday. And if I do that, I think I might go ahead and get started on how do I put this? Okay, so I've got this character here, Cyclone, that I've been teasing that I'm going to open for a while. You can see that I got her at GameStop for $6. So $6 again. That's a price I can't say no to any DC. I would buy a Robert Pattinson Batman figure for $6. I would buy it just to take pictures of the Ben Affleck Batman beating him up or the Adam West Batman beating him. Really, any other George Clooney, any other Batman beating up Robert Pattinson would be fun. But Earth Dude is here and he says, "We Batman." You've been here the whole time, haven't you? You've just been waiting for me to mention Batman. You have been here the whole time. You sneaky devil. But yeah, so yeah, I'm probably going to open her next. I don't know for certain I'm going to open her next, but I'm probably at this point going to open her next. I probably would have opened her today, except for, like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do an episode on Monday. So I figured I might as well get this guy out of the way since I don't want to break up my theme. So I'm going to open up Cyclone because she's a Justice Society character. And then I'm going to open up some Infinity Incorporated characters, which of course was like the next generation of Justice Society back in the 80s. And I've got Mr. Bones, I've got Obsidian, and I've got Jade. Now, of course, that's going to make for a subtle segue because, as we all know, Obsidian and Jade are the children of the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott, and that's going to bring us into a Green Lantern theme. So you see how I got it to segue smoothly. Now, I'm not sure exactly when a couple of things are going to happen, but at some point I have to do my live stream with Captain Half Fun. We need to get together and do that. If he's watching this, I still want to do that. Just time's been crazy lately. I haven't really had a whole lot of free time to do things. I've been working pretty much every day. So literally worked every day last week, and I'm literally working every day this week. But I definitely want to get together to do that soon because I got Superman figures that I want to open up, and one of them is that Superboy. So we got to get him opened up. He's still sitting over here waiting to be opened. I've got the movie version of Lex Luthor. I've got the movie version of Mr. Terrific, and some other Superman characters, some other fun surprises that you can look forward to. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of this stuff, and if you watch enough of my videos, you know what's coming at this point. You know what I'm going to say. You know what's coming. If you watch any YouTube videos, you ought to know what's coming because we all try to say this because it helps with that algorithm. We got to serve that algorithm, right? Make sure you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this character, Deathstroke, the character and the figure in specific. Earth Dude says Joe's. Oh, hell yes, we got plenty of G.I. Joe coming. Did I not mention? Yeah, we got GI Joe. We got GI Joe coming. We got the vintage card of Flint. We got the vintage card of CoverGirl. We got the Frag Viper. We got the what was the other one I had? Footloose. We got a lot of cool stuff coming. So Al Gore's what now? I don't know. An inconvenient truth. I don't know, man. But yeah, we got a ton of GI Joe on the way. Ton of GI Joe. Uh, Bobby Wald says, "I just got my Law and Order today. I'm excited to open that up. Hell yeah, I got Law and Order on the way too. That's gonna be in. That's another one I've got in my my big bad toy store order coming. I got Law and Order and God, what was the other GI? Finally, Dial Tone. They're finally shipping me Dial Tone like months after the fact. Like months after I should have gotten Dial Tone. I'm getting Dial Tone. Earthu says, "Well, that good Pepsi? No, this one's just water. This one is just. Sometimes I just drink water, like I'm trying to be healthy or something. So, I oftentimes have a soda over here with me that's like, I like to have something to wet my whistle while I'm talking. That's always good to have. So sometimes I'll have a soda. Sometimes I'll have some water. Lone Dragon says, "I'm waiting for Law and Order SVU." Yeah, that'd be fun. Maybe they should make some figures of that show. But yeah, or a Law and Order SUV, so you can have a vehicle to drive around in. So Bobby Wald says, if Dial Team was 5G, we could have got him a long time ago. Earth Dude says, "I'm on Pepsi hard." Wow. Yeah, I probably shouldn't drink when I do these streams. I'm goofy enough as it is. Lone Dragon says, "Water? What, you mean like out of the toilet?" Well, I ran out of Brondo the Thirst Mutilator, so like I was last time, not last time I visited, one of the more recent times I visited my mother. Oh, Guar figures. Earthu says I want Guar figures. Those would be cool. But yeah, one of the recent times when I visited my mother, we usually watch a movie at some point, and if me or my sister or my mom don't have a specific idea on something to watch, we'll just scroll through one of the many streaming services, and we were going through Disney Plus, and I saw Idiocracy, and my sister was like, "We can watch that," and I'm like, if you want to. Because I love that movie. I think that's a great movie. I say that that's one of the most realistic movies ever made. Is Idiocracy? This is the most realistic movies ever made. Idiocracy, They Live, and Josie and the Pussycats. If you wanna see how I think the world works, watch all three of those movies back to back, and that'll give you a good idea. But as much as I love that movie, and I guess my sister loves it too because she wanted to watch it. Ow, my balls! Yeah, like I wasn't sure if it was going to be my mom's type of humor, but she seemed to enjoy it fairly well. Bobby Wald says, "I love the evolution of the Fuddruckers name. Yeah, that part was pretty funny. It did make me think about how I miss Fuddruckers. There used to be a bunch of them around my area within driving distance, and now I think the closest one is like an hour away. So yeah, I haven't been to Fuddruckers in a very, very long time, but hopefully they'll come a little closer to my area again one day. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed that we wound up going into a rant on Idiocracy because yeah, anything can happen on this channel. It's easy to get me distracted onto another topic, and things have been crazy these past couple of weeks. If you don't mind me getting a little bit serious, there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. And I don't really like to talk too much about that kind of stuff on this channel. This isn't really a channel for that. This is a channel to kind of get away from some of the craziness in the world. And like I'm not talking about just like things in the world in general. I'm talking about how like I've been having to work pretty much every single day, and it's good to just kind of for a little bit, get away and talk about some silly, frivolous things like action figures, isn't it? Like that's something that if I can make some kind of small contribution to this world, if I can just get somebody's mind off of their troubles for a few minutes, then I've done my part, haven't I? And if I had a piece of advice for anybody watching this right now, it's that find a part for yourself. Find something for yourself to do out there to help people, even if it's just a small thing. Like sometimes it can be like that pebble that you throw into a water and it has that ripple effect that ripples out. And sometimes you're helping people in a way that you don't even know that you're helping them. So I want you to know that if you're watching that, is that that even you guys here in the comments, like when you say something that makes me laugh or gets me thinking or gets me off on a tangent, like you're doing the same thing for me. Like that's great. Like it's good that we have each other in this world. And on that note, Daniel Evans is here, and he says, I don't always read this every time he says it, but this time I am gonna read it. For God so loved the world, he only gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. And whether or not you are a Christian yourself, and I got nothing. I consider myself a Christian. I got nothing but respect for Jesus and the Christian faith. I think that that those last two lines, those can apply to everybody, no matter what your faith is. Judge not, lest ye be judged, and especially love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's a good way to end this stream. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe. We will talk to you next time. Bye.